everyone. I'm Amanda. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more thoroughly in a moment, but my presentation today, called Digital Dressing and What We'll Wear in the Metaverse, is really for anybody who is asking questions about this moment in time in fashion. Questions like, what the heck is an NFT? What is the metaverse and how will we know when we get there? And can a company really own the metaverse just by changing their name? I'm someone who's not afraid to ask questions because that's actually what I do for a living. I'm a journalist and I've been writing about digital culture for the last 10 years. I'm also an entrepreneur and the founder of my own media company and fashion innovation consultancy. At Electric Runway, I research and report on how technology is transforming the $2.4 trillion fashion industry around the world. And I'm actually from Toronto, Canada, coming to you live today. And I hope to share a little bit about my story and shed light on my experience in the fashion industry, which actually starts here. So this is a picture of the Tip Top Tailors building in Toronto. It was built in the 1920s on Toronto's waterfront in just south of the Fashion District, when Toronto was a manufacturing hub and provided jobs for immigrants like my grandparents after World War II. This is actually where my grandparents met. My grandfather was a tailor and my grandmother was a seamstress, and they actually went on to open their own men's clothing company called Cosco Clothiers, making suits and repairing and altering clothes. My father inherited the family business, but I had no interest in fashion. I actually studied media. But after graduating and trying to work in the world of ideas as a journalist, I decided to start a blog where I could self-publish my work on wearable technology. So my interest in fashion technology really began with wearables and technology on the body. And this really made sense for me because even though I studied media, fashion and wearable technology wasn't really that much of a far stretch because so much of the industry was focused on wearable media. And so Electric Runway was really a springboard for my career as a speaker, thinker, and writer in this area. And I soon found that I was speaking to some of the most fascinating people and asking some of the most unimaginable questions. Questions like, is open source, the way that technology works, the future of fashion? Are we going to wear our technology? And how can we harness technological innovation to make the fashion industry more sustainable and equitable? So I started a podcast documenting my conversation with leading innovators working in this interdisciplinary or hybrid space. The podcast was named by Elle magazine as one of the top fashion podcasts. And soon I started becoming invited on different press tours and media events around the world, which caused me to learn the art of visual storytelling through YouTube. So through my YouTube channel, I've taken audiences with me around the world, from the front row at New York Fashion Week to garment factories in Bangladesh. And people find me on the internet because they're asking similar questions to what I was asking, such as how are we going to shop in the future? And how will augmented reality impact the future of fashion? So soon I was being invited to deliver keynote talks and participate in international delegations all over the world. And as I traveled, my knowledge of fashion tech expanded. And soon I realized that I wasn't just working in a niche called fashion tech. I was working at the intersection of culture, science, history, and identity. And all of the organizations I was working with were asking similar questions about the future of fashion, whether that was the printed electronic industry in Finland, the future of 3D in Hong Kong, or virtual reality in Russia. My boots on the ground experience combined with my newfound global perspective attracted the attention of world-leading brands. And as I worked on the business to business side, my knowledge expanded even further as I got to see how companies were thinking about innovations in culture and technology. So today, my research is focused on digital goods, digital experiences, and augmented reality. At the bottom of the slide here, you see a photo of me with ombre pink purple hair. This was actually taken at the Consumer Electronics Show that happens every year in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I took a video on my phone of this magic mirror that I was trying. And the magic mirror allows you to change your hair color in real time in augmented reality on your live video. Now, of course, given my work with ModiFace in Toronto, which is a company that was eventually acquired by L'Oreal, I was very familiar with this. But for a lot of people, this was the first time that they were seeing the sort of magic or possibility of real time augmented reality. And so that kind of catapulted my interest in sharing what's going on in these different spaces with my audience. And really, what we're talking about here is the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So, first of all, we had the information age, which was Web 1. And then Web 2 was, of course, the social age. And who knows how Web 3 will be defined in the history books. But one thing is for sure, just as Web 2 ushered in entirely new business models, so will Web 3. For example, in Web 2, we had the sharing economy. We all just decided that we didn't need to own cars or vacation homes because tech could connect us to those who do. And the sharing economy divorced experiences from ownership and fundamentally changed travel and taxis. Web 2.0 also separated hardware from software, showing that you didn't have to own a physical DVD or CD or VHS, and now I'm really dating myself, in order to enjoy it. The world is becoming dematerialized and we can experience more than ever. So, what are the business models that Web3 will usher in? Well, I want you to think back to the iPod and how this one invention changed history and music. And imagine a future in which we can change our outfits as easily as we can change songs. So this is a video of me experimenting with Clometrica's augmented reality try-on tool. I created a video of myself in the mirror. This idea is that you have a limited wardrobe within inside their app, and you can try it on for free in real time on your live video, just like the hair changing app that I was trying. And you might look at this and think, well, the tracking's a little bit off and the technology is not 100%, but I want to say that this is how it actually started in the makeup industry as well. It started looking a little bit gimmicky, and later on it evolved to become more realistic. This is an email that landed in my inbox recently from DressX, one of the leading companies at the intersection of fashion and digital tech. They're aiming to become the Farfetch of virtual clothing, where digital creators can sell their designs. And this is actually an invite to their newly launched subscription service. For $10 a month, you can have unlimited access to their fashion camera, in which you wear, and I'm putting wear in quotation marks, digital garments. So at once, this is a reaction to haul culture and overconsumption. It actually says right in the email, don't buy less, shop digital fashion instead. But at the same time, it's an entirely new avenue for design and self-expression. This is a video I made using DressX's camera. Just showing the difference between like what Mark Zuckerberg thinks we're going to wear in the metaverse based on his presentation for Meta, and then what DressX thinks we're going to wear in the metaverse. And so for those who are new to digital dressing, this is what it looks like on a very kind of basic level. You send in your real picture and they Photoshop or digitally tailor an item onto your body. On the left, this is a real photo. On the right, you can see something that was digitally tailored by a company called XR Couture. But the question was, are people actually going to pay real money for this? And it turns out, yes, and a lot of money. This is the iridescence dress. In May 2019, this dress was released by the fabricant. It was the first digital dress to sell on the blockchain for 54 ETH, which is the equivalent of $120,000 today. And although that it was delivered by being digitally tailored onto the purchaser's body. And although 3D softwares like Clo 3D, for example, have been around for a long time, enabling designers to bring their digital designs to life, what we're seeing now is that virtual items and 3D as an asset class is really coming to the fore. And when we think of the digital only fashion landscape, we can divide it into two camps. We can think of brands that are heritage brands like Gucci and Ralph Lauren that are experimenting with digital, as well as digital only fashion brands. And within the digital only fashion landscape, we can divide it even further into those who are focused on dressing your avatar or dressing your likeness and then those who are selling items as collectibles, and those tend to be accessory companies that are selling sneakers. But at this point, I want to underscore that these 3D assets and AR objects are a different asset class than what we saw previously with augmented reality. And what do I mean by that? So we're actually moving beyond try before you buy. Augmented reality really emerged on the scene as a marketing tool. And the fact that we're now moving beyond that was really crystallized for me when L'Oreal Paris first released their virtual makeup for Zoom. This was just at the beginning of the pandemic. They had always used augmented reality to drive e-commerce engagement, but now we're seeing the digital is becoming an end in and of itself. So prior to AR becoming an asset class in and of itself, augmented reality was used in three ways, and all three of those ways were to enhance marketing efforts. So we had AR lenses, like the one Chanel launched in tandem with their campaign that they had at the Standard in New York. If you couldn't go to the hotel and see the Chanel experience that they launched, you could go to their website and download their augmented reality app, or within Snapchat, view the Chanel experience, kind of like a kid looking through a Viewmaster toy that you used to have. So it was your view into this world of Chanel. AR filters, I'm sure you've seen them before. They enable customers to try on a product in real time on their live video. So we've seen Gucci do this with shoes. We've seen Dior do this with sunglasses. And then we had embedded experiences where 3D assets are created as a replica or digital twin of a physical item. And this is to enhance the e-commerce experience again. So you could twirl the item around with your fingers, zoom in, inspect the details as Burberry did. And we've seen tremendous increase in engagement in going 3D. I don't want to dismiss the exciting opportunity of having a 3D enabled e-commerce website. For example, according to a study published by Shopify, in going 3D, Rebecca Minkoff customers became 30% more likely to buy. We know that 3D increases linger time and engagement, but what if digital goods held just as much value as physical ones? What if the whole NFT and crypto craze is underscoring the fact that we're opening ourselves up to new revenue opportunities? Recently, Gucci teamed up with the game Roblox to unveil Gucci Garden. This was a limited run experience land where players were invited to explore the world of Gucci. This actually complemented a real life exhibit that was taking place in Florence. And it included a limited edition run of virtual items that were sold within Roblox. And what ended up happening was one of the bags in the game sold for more than the real physical item. And what was interesting was that this was not an NFT. This was just a virtual item. And the value of it surpassed the value of the real thing. And it has no value because it's not an NFT outside of Roblox. So that was a pretty astounding moment. In September of this year, Dolce & Gabbana auctioned off NFTs, and one sold for 351 ETH, which is over $1 million. Now, albeit this NFT did come with a tailored suit, but even at that, the price, at the price of $1 million, it became the most valuable item the brand has ever sold. And these NFTs are becoming status symbols as well as communities, because people who purchased the NFTs also got invited to Dolce & Gabbana couture shows. So it's not just about the asset itself, it's about virtue signaling around the asset, or identity signaling. And I think the blurring of digital and physical becomes very clear when we look at a company called Artifact that created the cyber sneakers. These were sneakers that were created as an homage to Tesla's new Cybertruck, and they were photoshopped onto an image of Elon Musk at the Met Gala. And then this image was circulated around the internet, and people got so excited about the sneakers that they wanted to know if they could own them, but they didn't exist in real life. And eventually, Artifact, the company, did make an NFT of the sneaker. Sorry, I apologize, my dog. They did make an NFT of the sneaker, but it really calls into question what's real and what's digital and what's desirable. Recently, I produced a podcast for Kathy Hackle, who's one of the leading metaverse experts. And in the podcast, Binod Pagodo, who's one of the founders of Artifact, said, if something exists only on the internet, but enough people see it, is it real? And I think that was a really interesting quote because it kind of calls to attention this kind of blurring lines. As we can imagine, for brands, trademark infringement and copyright cases are about to abound. Wherever there has been a virtual world, whether we're talking about The Sims or Second Life, we've seen brands like Nike and Supreme enter, whether that's officially or unofficially. And I think that we're going to see more brands trying to protect themselves in cyberspace by trademarking their virtual goods. But the fact that Nike did this, I think, really legitimizes this space. So finally, a question I asked, and one of the questions that we asked on the Metaverse Marketing podcast that I mentioned is, what if direct to avatar is the next direct to consumer? We can't ignore the impact of gaming on the metaverse and Web3, because really the future of the internet has been built on the back of gaming. So anyone who has a kid under 15 years old is spending money on Roblox, and they know that in Fortnite, Gen Z spends almost more money than they spend on themselves on their avatars. So our online identity is becoming just as important as our digital identity, and there's a whole universe of commerce being unlocked. In fact, VentureBeat recently reported that 85% of gamers aged 13 to 45 are aware of skins, and Fortnite makes billions off of its skins. Here's a few more examples of avatars that are being used and brand collaborations that are coming in. We have Chanel with Animal Crossing, Supreme with genies in the center, and then on the right, we have Ralph Lauren and their collaboration with Bitmoji. I won't go through these in details because I'm almost out of time. So once again, the podcast that I mentioned was called Metaverse Marketing. It was hosted by Kathy Hackle and executive produced by me. If you're interested in this conversation of where the future of fashion is headed or where the future of the internet is headed, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And episode 7 was actually all about fashion. So if you're just going to check out one episode, it would be episode 7. And if you're interested in following Electric Runway's work, our YouTube channel documents our adventures in fashion tech. Of course, we have our own podcast, the Electric Runway podcast. You can subscribe to our email newsletter, where we produce 1 to 2 email newsletters a month, letting you know what we're up to, as well as following us on Instagram. So once again, my name is Amanda Cosco. If you'd like to contact me directly, my email is there. Thank you so much for your time and attention today.